can't believe it's Jenna. I can't believe it. I've been going through this for 3 years. I can't believe it. Sean, I lost my mother. I lost my grandmother. I lost my father. My father had a stroke. And I lost I can't believe it. Because of you. Because of you. I lost my father, my son, father. Because of you. Because of you. He killed himself. I hate you. I hate you. I don't sell no apology because you could have did it. But at the beginning, I don't sell it. You racist.
Now, the anger is being directed, obviously, at Andrew Delke, the former police officer, but also the DA. And it's all about the way this whole thing ended up. Let me bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae. Julia, what can you tell us? How can you explain to us the relationship between the victim's mom and the DA and how this whole thing ended up the way it ended up?
Vinny, I can tell you that the way that they are feeling when it comes to this plea deal is that this was something done in secret. This was backdoor. It was struck between the defendant and the district attorney's office, but that there was not involvement of the family in making this decision to allow the defendant to plead guilty in the 11th hour before this trial was set to go forward. I received an email from the victim's family, the attorney for that family, who you even see there in the courtroom, and she said this was done without the knowledge or consent of Hambrick's mother, Vicki Hambrick, that you see there. As those frustrations were reverberating throughout this courtroom. And the district attorney's office says that they were in communication with this family for the last 3 years. And Glenn Flynn said that, this is a situation where they did inform the family once this was done, but that they knew the sentiments of the family and they went into those negotiations understanding that they may not be happy with the outcome.
And did the DA talk about why they gave this deal? Because he was facing life in prison, right? I mean, based upon the charges, he was facing a potential life in prison.
Life in prison without parole was the maximum that Andrew Delke could have received if a jury had convicted him of what he was charged with, which was first-degree murder. And we did hear from the district attorney after the settlement hearing was over, and he indicated that he didn't believe, along with members of his team, that they would be successful at trial, that they believed there was a 50% chance that this would be a hung jury, even noting that he spoke with the police chief there in Nashville, who believed there was a 90% chance that there would be a hung jury and that it would hang along racial lines. So this was the concern that the district attorney said led them to continue those negotiations and receive something concrete that would hold this defendant accountable.
All right, Julie's and I stand by. We're going to bring in our think tank tonight. Let's introduce who's joining us. In Atlanta, Georgia, family law attorney, law professor Randy Kessler. In Cleveland, Ohio, criminal defense attorney, also law professor at Cleveland State, Ian Friedman. And in New York, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Ian. How does this usually happen here? From the defense, you're negotiating with the DA. In the cases you're negotiating, does the DA tell you, wait, I got to talk to the family?
Yes. So we do have discussions all the time with the prosecutors. That's the way it goes. Sometimes we'll even be back in chambers with the judges. However, I cannot recall a time where I had a prosecutor do this and not consult with the victim's family, particularly in a case like this, so serious, where someone lost
And when you
their
say
son.
consult, I want to make sure this is clear, because they were in communication. They told them afterwards, but is it for approval? Is that the time? Like, is a DA telling you, listen, I can offer you this, or before I can accept your counter offer, I want to talk to the family to make sure it's okay with them?
Well, I think you're correct, Vinny. The family doesn't have the ultimate say, but so often I do hear prosecutors say, I've got to get approval of my victims. That's just kind of the way it is. What happened here was the DA was consulting with the family throughout, may have thought they wouldn't have gone along with it, but the big mistake made here was that he allowed this family to come into the courtroom, not even knowing that the deal had been struck, not knowing that he was looking at 3 years, and also with the regular statutory time in Nashville, he could be out in 18 months. So they're thinking, well, we're just going to go through more hearings. We've got trial coming up, and then find out the man who took our loved one is only doing 3 years. That ultimate surprise. This was handled as wrong as it possibly could be.
All right, Bernardo, you've handled many homicide cases, and some of them you go to trial, because I know you're always ready for trial, but some of them, there are deals. When you are striking a deal, before you give that deal, when you were a homicide prosecutor, would you say, would you get approval, or not that they can have the ultimate say over you, but would you want them to approve what you were going to offer before you would offer it?
So, Vinny, it would depend what is the policy of the district attorney for that county. So obviously here in Kings County and Brooklyn, yes, pursuant to the district attorney's policy, you would speak to the family. You will make sure that the family is aware of any major decisions that are being made, especially when you're talking about that a defendant, a person that took the life away from your loved one, is thinking about pleading guilty. Because, of course, no matter how many years a person gets, it's not going to bring that loved one back. But still, you are hoping that that sentence will bring them some kind of closure. I'm very disturbed with what happened in this case. It's a smack in the face to the family. It's a smack in the face to the people of that county. That family should have been made aware of what was going on. Not necessarily that you need their approval, but they should have been aware of what was going on. And this is exactly why families and people have a distrust of the district attorney's office. Where's the transparency? If I'm the family of a victim and I can't even have full transparency from the district attorney who is supposed to represent me and be my voice in the courtroom.
All right, Randy, I want to ask you about what we saw transpire in the courtroom. I've seen many, he took the plea, and then the sentencing was today as well. Many times when victims can speak, it's done through the court. Like, attorneys don't turn and argue with each other. They argue with each other through the court. They will argue to the judge. They will address the judge. Many courtrooms, victims are told to address the court, address the judge, but here, allowed and permitted to address the defendant directly. What did you think about what transpired in the courtroom and how it transpired?
So I'm not surprised, right? And this is what happens. It's interesting when you see sentencing and you see stoic defendants. You see Derek Chauvin doesn't flinch. You see people that are sentenced to life in prison and they don't have the outburst because they expect it. They know what's going to happen. They've been warned. When you don't warn somebody, whether it's criminal, whether it's family law, and a judge takes a child away from somebody, when you don't expect it and you're hit with that reality right there, it's about as raw an emotion as you can possibly get. And we saw it. And I think district attorneys across the country are going to learn a big lesson from this. You better explain it. And maybe there's a reason they did this plea. Maybe they have a good reason for it. Maybe not. But you got to talk with the family. You got to explain why you've done this. You got to listen. And maybe you change your mind or maybe you don't. but you don't do it in open court like this for the first time. That's why the raw emotion erupted in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it was raw, it was real. And for people that don't understand, when we cover these trials, this is what everyone is feeling, right? This is what everyone feels. It's tough. You know, you've lost your loved one, and you, at the end of the day, you want a sense of justice, and here you feel like the whole system is against you. Now, we're going to talk about whether or not this was justice later on this hour, but I want you to listen now to the defendant, Andrew Delke. He also spoke today inside the courtroom. Let's take a listen.
I'm pleading guilty today because I recognize that my use of deadly force was not reasonably necessary under all the circumstances. I recognize that what happened on July 26, 2018 was tragic. Mrs. Hambrick lost her son that day, and I am responsible for her loss. Excuse me. These are facts that I will have to live with for the rest of my life, and no mother should ever have to experience the loss of a child, and not a day has gone by that I have not thought about my actions. I also recognize that my actions impacted the community and the police department. I hope this case can contribute positively to the much needed discussion about how police officers are trained and how we as a community want police officers to interact with citizens. I am deeply sorry for the harm my actions caused, and I hope that Mr. Hambrick's family will obtain some comfort from my acceptance of responsibility and my guilty plea today.
I want to bring back in Julia Janae. Julia, did we hear anything from the defense? Any reaction to everything that happened today after this plea and sentencing?
We did hear from attorney David Rabin, who has been representing the defendant from the beginning. The Fraternal Order of Police has also been defending him, and they, of course, say that he acted in accordance with his law enforcement training and that he feared for his life at some point, that the victim in this case turned and pointed the gun at Andrew Delke. That's something that he told investigators early on. So they are still standing behind him in that regard, but accepting of this plea agreement in order to avoid going to a trial where they were unsure of how this would go forward. Knowing what has happened there in Nashville, they even did their own polling in a motion for a change of venue and found that it really was about 50% of people who felt that he was already guilty. They had already made up their mind about this case. So they had their concerns about going into voir dire, knowing that so many people have seen this video and that this video was going to be permitted to be played for a jury.
Julie Janae, appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much for helping us out tonight. We will see you again. Have a great weekend. We're going to talk more about this case during the program. We're going to take a look at the video with our law enforcement professionals a little bit later on next hour. And at the end of this hour, we'll get your reaction and the reaction of our think tank about whether or not justice was served with this deal. You know, if you're not guaranteed that you think you're going to win the case, should a deal like that be struck? What happened here? We'll talk all about that. But when we come back, another verdict and sentencing today in the trial we've been covering here on Court TV. We'll have a live report. Chanley Painter will join us from Kentucky next.